At first I thought, you know, oh, I'm going to have to learn the software all over again. But in actuality, the Mischief software is pretty intuitive, meaning it actually makes sense naturally to how we perceive a software to run, and the buttons, the controls, even without really taking much time to learn them, it does feel quite natural. Um, the interesting thing about the drawing tool here is that it actually feels very similar to drawing on paper. And as we all are artists that learn to draw from probably a traditional medium like paper and pen and pencil, making sure that the digital translation is really important. And so I feel that that's something that Mischief did really well with the software. And as you can see, the lines and the lay-in are going around quite smooth. So as I'm building up this drawing, I'm also playing around with line weight, which is also something that many artists and illustrators use to, sort of accentuate their drawing and their style. So as I'm building up accents on this drawing here, I really felt like it feels pretty natural. Again, the software does a very good job translating the idea of traditional medium into the digital world. And it actually feels pretty close to me drawing just directly on a piece of paper, which is fantastic. I think that's one of the things that many artists look for in a software is how well does it sort of translate. And so even with this basic tool, as you can see, I've only really played around with, you can see the moving tool, there is the zoom in and out, and just the brush or the pen that I'm using here. I think I'll also be using a bit of the eraser as well. But now you can see the overall tools are just really basic. And the basic ones are really what makes it work well. The basics are what gives the software such a strong foothold, and that makes a translation to many different types of artists. Not just a concept artist or a digital painter or illustrator, but anyone who knows how to draw, who wants to experiment with that in the digital world. So you can see the zoom in and out is great. The feature of the zooming in and not really seeing pixelation, and it's just all one big happy sort of detailed image of your drawing is great. You're not losing any sense of detail or getting pixelated as you zoom in. And for many of us, that's a fantastic option and really allows for us to create artwork that has almost endless depth. And that's really cool to, I think, for a lot of us to experiment with. And I think as the drawing progresses, another thing that I'd probably like to talk about is the simple interface. The interface is set up in a way where, as you can see along the sides and then along the corners, there isn't much clutter. And to me, that's really awesome because it allows for me to really be able to concentrate on the drawing, get the artwork to be the most visible piece of real estate on the screen, and it really allows for us to feel like we're drawing on a piece of paper. I mean, if we think about it, as we were growing up and as we were just practicing our art and trade, we're probably limited to a canvas or a piece of paper. Now that piece of paper is isolated, it's on a table, but the artwork is purely reserved for that one piece of paper, or that canvas, which gives us a way to really just kind of focus on the material. Now, for focus here, it's really about, the simple interface. You've got a great amount of basic tools that for the digital painter and digital artist, to me, this is all you really need. especially for something like what I'm doing here, which is this sort of a tank drawing, sort of a mechanical type of illustration. Now, I've always drawn with a pen and a pencil. Those are my two basically go-to tools, and it really allows for me to just play up with the drawing and kind of dive into the design of whatever I'm trying to build out and all that kind of good stuff. And as the software allows me to really feel like it's an extension of my hand, not that I have to relearn a software, it's really great to experience that. Now, it almost feels like that I've had some practice with this software, but in actuality, this is the absolute first attempt at the very first try of using Mischief. And I can already tell how intuitive it is. I'm already feeling loose and that I'm able to draw with confidence. And I feel that almost anybody at any level of art can probably pick up this software and give it a try. You can see the rotating tool. It's awesome. It's. I always remember growing up and using different digital software and having the challenge of, well, this one has this and that one has that, and a lot of the features were never really cross-pollinating. But it really feels that here, a lot of it is, and it feels great. I'll just continue with the drawing, and as things pop up, I will definitely narrate a bit more about some of the feel of the software. The feel of it actually is great, and that's something that's very important, is the tracking from the tablet pen to the actual drawing. Sometimes in some software there is a lag. There is also a little bit of finicky vibration and variation that can happen within a single stroke, and so we're able to feel that through the feedback of the paper. We're able to pick up feedback through different tools, the pen, the pencil, the paper, but obviously in a digital format we're not able to see that, or we're not able to feel it. However, oddly enough, with Mischief you do have a sensibility of that because of how the lines are being drawn. It really feels like you are a part of an actual physical traditional drawing. And one thing that's great is that I've never been able to draw super straight lines in other digital software. I mean, I can do it on paper and pen, but when it comes to doing it on the digital, freehand, it's a little bit difficult. But for some reason, again, the geniuses over at Mischief were able to create a way for that. These lines do feel like they're absolutely going to a they're being drawn down with confidence. There's not a lot of wiggle in the straight lines, and it makes you feel like you're just a seasoned pro at this kind of stuff, which is fantastic. I mean, it builds so much confidence about what you're drawing that it really doesn't feel like you're trying to draw. It feels like you are drawing. It feels like you are doing something that you've been practicing for many years. And I've got to say that has a lot to do with the sensitivity and the care that this software was built around and how it translates to the artist's hand, and that's really fantastic. Now just going through the drawing here some more, putting in some finer details, and with the finer details and some adjustments, it's really about getting a precise, drawing, getting that precision in there. And the precision is only helped by the sort of the level of quick and easy application that Mischief is able to allow us to do, and it's great. It's a great piece of software. I think I'll be using this more often, even in my own time. Let's getting in some more shapes in here, slowly building up the whole idea of this tank, and the tank being that it's such a strong shape. There's a lot of angles, there's a lot of circles, there's a lot of small modular, similarly sized pieces, and it is absolutely great because, drawing a tank is something that takes a lot of practice, and especially to for it to look pretty realistic. And a lot of the time, it's the straight lines, it's the proportions, and that sort of thing. And what I really love about drawing tanks is that it definitely offers a lot of those different types of shapes all in one. And you mix those proportions up and you come up with a new design, which is great. However, when it comes to drawing the tanks, it's a bit challenging because there are so many lines, there's a lot of perspective going on, there's so many rules. And paying attention to those rules becomes quite a, it requires a lot of concentration. So one thing that I really want to talk about Mischief is that it allows the artist to worry about one thing less, okay? And what I mean by that is that, as you can see within the drawing here, there's not a lot of finicky undo and do of lines, not in the line of how it looks in the drawing, but the quality of the line. Now, almost every line that's being put down has a very strong quality of calligraphy or confidence behind the line, and a lot of that realistically is because of how Mischief is translating the drawing. And so, I would highly recommend this to anyone who just loves to draw, loves to do digital art, loves to paint, as this is definitely a tool that has become sort of catered for that. And I always remember, it would be really great if somebody or a team of people would make a software that was purely just for digital painting and digital art. Not for manipulating photos and that sort of thing, but more so to just be a pure illustrator or a fine artist. And so I think this is something here that really touches on that note, and I'm pretty impressed with the development of this software. This is great. Even like that little antenna line over there was just such an ease to draw, and it just feels so good coming out of the hand and seeing it being translated onto the screen. I mean, personally, I've never experienced anything like this. This is great. Now, as the drawing progresses, what becomes a little bit more a bit of a focus is that we're going to start to actually apply the drawing and give it some values. Now, being that this is, again, the first time using the software, there's not a whole lot that we're able to do because so far it's just the first time I'm using it, right? I don't have the luxury of knowing the software in and out. So a lot of what's happening right now is really much more of your kind of on the fly. You're seeing it being experimented for the first time right now. So even with seeing how the pen or the brush tool works, getting some of the straight lines, even the kind of user interface of the zoom in and zoom out, as well as moving the canvas around, it all works very well. Get a couple more details in here before we start adding in some other values. So you can see in this dialog box where there's a way to get a new layer on here. So we click that new layer window or that button, and basically have a couple of ways to change the settings, file save, flatten it down, and all this other kind of stuff, which is great, pretty intuitive. And you have your opacity levels and so on and so forth. So it looks like we can just keep on building on top of this drawing without too much complication. So I'm just testing out some of the paintbrush now. A little bit thicker of a pen, allowing to put down some tone, and I'm playing with the opacity here. So the opacity is allowing me to almost feel like this is like a marker drawing. So the values are pretty much that I'm putting down here are sort of like your shadows. And I love the brush quality. It's very calligraphic. And it also gives a quality that feels very natural to anyone who's used a marker or some sort of a brush pen. And I actually use brush pens quite a bit in my traditional work, and it feels very similar to that. And you can see that it's not bleeding much. The strokes that are compounded on top of each other are not, darkening themselves down. It's putting down just a very, very clean and clear to read values, and that's great. So filling in these values here are very, very kind of straightforward, easy to do, but it's adding so much value to the actual drawing. And we can see that the underdrawing is still visible. You can still see the lay-in of the design of the tank, and just putting down some more marks. Now, this is pretty much where the software Mischief is really creating a great set of general tool sets that allow the artist to do really, really awesome drawings. And I can assume, and I can actually see in the future how people will be doing fantastic drawings, paintings, designs of robots and spaceships, even to your still life of flowers and things like that. But overall, I think this is a great experience. And this drawing here is done in real time, so nothing is being sped up, and there's no sort of software tricks or anything like that that's happening here. Everything is very much one-to-one. It's real time, and you're seeing the first initial reaction from me about this software, and thus far I have nothing bad at all to say about it. It's actually very, very, very strong. one of the most important things that I felt was that I want to say about the software is that how easy it is to pick up and use. One thing that I personally just have a little bit of apprehension about software is that every time you want to learn a new software, it's literally like you have to learn a brand new set of everything. It's not just that, you can understand the idea of it, but all the presets are different, the buttons are different, so on and so forth. So that it just becomes a big, learning lesson. Now, imagine if there was a software out there that was built around what we already sort of know, so it becomes a little bit more natural and straightforward. And I think that's really cool. Mischief is a software that apparently, for me, seems to do just that. It feels very, very natural, and without much sweat at all, I'm able to pick up the software and just kind of go at it, which is fantastic. Okay, now we're going to try a little bit more. We're going to get a couple more accents on the drawing here. And again, using a new tool, or excuse me, a new layer. See, I'm zooming in and out. You can definitely check out the drawing. But I'm using a new layer. I'm going to put in a cast shadow just to be able to make it feel like it's sitting on a surface. And let's see. While I'm putting in the shadow, I just also want to talk about really quickly just a couple of things about the software. One thing that I personally just feel that is absolutely the strongest point of the software just has to do with, and it's not just one thing, it's actually many things. And the many things become one thing, okay? So what I mean by that is the layout of the UI, the user interface, the pressure sensitivity of the pen to the actual brush, the amount of simplicity within the actual buttons, and how many tools you actually need. Now, one thing about other softwares out there are that they're powerful, they're useful, but again, for what we need as digital artists and fine artists is that we don't need all of them. And they actually bog down the system. And that's something else that I just really want to talk about with this particular software is the fact that it's not bogged down. It runs super, super smooth. You can see that there's a simplicity within the experience, right? The user interface is very easy to read. And the software it not just looks good, but it really makes the art feel like it's very naturally flowing out of the hand. And I think for any artist, that is what we're absolutely looking for, is how to get the art to flow out of the hand, make it feel natural, even when it's through a digital medium, So I think that's something that we can really explore more with as we play more with Mischief. And I just got to say that it's a great tool. It's fantastic. So that about finishes it up for this Mischief kind of run through. I just want to thank all the guys at Mischief for allowing me to take part of this review. It's fantastic. Definitely gets my personal recommendation for any artist of any level who wants to be a better digital artist. Definitely would recommend picking up this software. It's fantastic to use, and go out and have fun. So thanks for listening to the review, guys, and we'll catch you next time.